Are you worried that if you don't save enough for your child's college, you're failing as a parent? Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you're quietly wondering, what if I save too much? What if I sacrifice my own retirement so my child can attend a school that may not even make financial sense? College planning has become emotionally charged. Costs keep rising, student loan headlines are everywhere, and at the same time, we're facing a growing shortage of skilled tradespeople earning six-figure incomes without a traditional four-year degree. So how should parents think about planning for education today? In this video, I'm going to walk you through a framework that I use with clients to plan for college in a way that is wise, balanced, and realistic. We're going to cover first how to think about college as an investment, not an assumption. Second, how to measure whether that investment makes financial sense. Third, how to actually plan and save when your kids are young and you have no idea what they'll become. And fourth, what happens if your child doesn't go to college, including new rules under the Secure 2.0 Act that make 529 plans more flexible than ever. If you're a parent who wants to help your child succeed without sabotaging your own retirement, this conversation's for you. Let's dive in. For decades, many families operated under a simple assumption. Graduate high school, go to college, period. That's what my parents did. I can still hear them saying, go to college and get a good job. I'm still not sure what they meant, but I went to college. It wasn't really questioned, but today that assumption deserves scrutiny. College is not just a rite of passage, it's an investment. And like any investment, it should have a reasonable expectation of return. When you invest in a stock, you expect growth. When you invest in real estate, you expect income or appreciation. When you invest in a business, you expect profits. When you invest in college, what are you expecting? You're expecting increased earning power, you're expecting opportunity, you're expecting a career path that wouldn't be available otherwise. And those expectations are valid for many professions. But here's the problem. Somewhere along the way, we stopped asking whether the cost matches the return. Let's use a simple example. Suppose you spend $200,000 for a four-year degree, and the resulting starting income for your child is $45,000 per year. One way to measure return is to ask, how many years of income equal the cost of the education? 200,000 divided by 45,000 is roughly 4.5 years. So it would take 4.5 years of gross income just to equal the cost of the degree. Now, that's a simplistic calculation. It ignores taxes, living expenses, and salary growth, but it gives us a starting point. And we also need to factor in something else. Those 4 years spent earning the degree are 4 years out of the workforce. If your child could have earned $40,000 per year in a trade during those years, that's $160,000 of foregone income. So the real economic cost might be closer to $360,000 when you combine tuition and lost wages. That changes the math dramatically. Now, this doesn't mean college is bad. It means college should be intentional. If your child wants to become a physician, engineer, accountant, or attorney, a degree is not optional, it's required. But if your child is unsure or choosing a degree with unclear income prospects, then the cost matters more. As parents, we need to shift from, of course you're going to college, to let's evaluate this like an investment. This is the approach my wife and I took with our children, and we had great conversations around the purpose of college. One of my children attends a college for a music degree, one plans to attend a local state school, and the other plans to go to trade school. And that brings us to our next question. Is it more important for your child to attend any school of their choosing or to get the most value for the money spent? This is where emotion often overrides logic. Parents want their kids to be happy. They want them to feel proud. They want the bumper sticker on the car. But let me ask you something. When was the last time you walked into your doctor's office and asked where they went to school? Probably never. You care that they are competent, you care that they are licensed, you care that they know what they're doing. In most professions, where you went to school matters very little compared to your performance. There are exceptions. Certain elite finance or law tracks may favor specific institutions, but for most careers, competence outweighs campus. I've seen families drain retirement accounts or take on significant debt so their child can attend a private school that costs twice as much as an in-state option. And the outcome? Same job, the same income. The difference? One family retires comfortably, the other works 5 extra years. That's not a trade most parents consciously want to make. There's also a broader economic reality. We currently have a shortage of skilled tradespeople, electricians, plumbers, HVAC technicians, welders. Many of these careers can produce six-figure incomes, and they often require far less debt and have a more practical training period by not having to take high school all over again with the gen ed courses. College is not the only path to a successful life, and for some students, forcing a four-year academic route can actually delay their success rather than accelerate it. As parents, our job is not to fund a brand name. Our job is to help our children launch into productive, meaningful, financially sustainable lives. Sometimes that means college. Sometimes that means trade school. Sometimes that means starting a business. The key is flexibility. Now, let's talk about the practical side. What do you do when your child is 5 years old and you have absolutely no idea whether they'll become a surgeon, a software engineer, or a master electrician? This is where balance comes in. First principle, your retirement comes first. I say this often and it surprises people. You can borrow for college. You cannot borrow for retirement. If you compromise your retirement to fully fund your child's education, you risk becoming financially dependent on them later in life. That's not a gift, that's a burden. So, before aggressively funding college accounts, make sure you are taking advantage of your employer retirement plans, saving appropriately for your own long-term goals, maintaining an emergency fund. Once those foundations are in place, then we can plan for education. Second principle, plan toward a modest, reasonable path. Research the cost of in-state public universities. Research community college plus transfer options. Research trade programs. Don't automatically plan for the most expensive private school in the country. If your child earns scholarships or you decide later to help more, you can always adjust. But starting with a realistic target keeps your savings goal manageable. Now, let's talk about one of the best tools available, the 529 plan. If you live in a state with an income tax, many states offer a state income tax deduction or credit for contributions to a 529 plan. That's an immediate return on your money. The investments grow tax deferred, and when used for qualified education expenses, withdrawals are tax-free. That's powerful. Even small, consistent contributions, $100 per month, $200 per month, invested over 15 to 18 years, can grow meaningfully. The key is starting early. And here's something important. Don't try to predict your child's major when they're in kindergarten. Instead, save consistently. Invest appropriately for their age. Typically, more aggressive when they're young and more conservative as college approaches. And adjust as clarity develops. This is the one account where I actually like target date funds because you know when you need the money to pay for school. Flexibility matters more than precision. Let's move on to one of the biggest fears parents have. What if I save all this money and my child doesn't use it? Historically, that concern limited some families from saving aggressively in 529 plans, but the rules have improved. Under the Secure 2.0 Act, if a 529 account has been open for at least 15 years, you can roll over up to $35,000 into a Roth IRA for the beneficiary. Let me say that again. Up to $35,000 can move from a 529 into a Roth IRA in the child's name, subject to annual Roth contribution limits. That means if your child doesn't attend college or doesn't use all the funds, you may be able to jumpstart their retirement savings. That's an incredible head start. Additionally, you can change the beneficiary of a 529 plan to another qualifying family member. The IRS outlines eligible family members in Publication 970. That includes siblings, step-siblings, certain cousins, and even yourself in some cases, so the money does not have to be wasted. This flexibility makes 529 plans much more attractive today than they were a decade ago. It reduces the fear of oversaving. But even with this flexibility, moderation is wise. Don't overfund beyond what's reasonably needed based on your planning assumptions. Balance remains the goal. Let me close this main section with something that often gets overlooked: communication. At some point in your child's teenage years, you need to have a clear conversation about money. What have you saved? What are you willing to pay? What expectations exist around student loans, part-time work, or scholarship? Clarity prevents resentment. I've seen situations where parents assume the child would choose the affordable option and the child assumed the parents would pay for anything. That mismatch creates stress. When families align expectations early, decisions improve. And here's something I often encourage. Consider having your child share some financial responsibility. Even a small amount of expenses or required summer employment can increase ownership and motivation. The goal isn't to burden them, the goal is partnership. Education should be a shared investment in the future. So let's bring this all together. First, college is an investment, not an automatic assumption. Evaluate the expected return. Second, prestige often matters less than practicality. Focus on value, not brand names. Third, prioritize your retirement first and plan toward a reasonable, modest education path using tools like 529 plans. Fourth, remember the flexibility built into today's rules, including the ability to roll over up to $35,000 into a Roth IRA under the Secure 2.0 Act and the ability to change beneficiaries. And finally, communicate clearly with your children about expectations and responsibility. As a fee-only fiduciary, my role is not to sell products or push expensive solutions. It's to help families make thoughtful, values-based decisions with their money. You can love your children deeply, you can support their dreams, and you can still protect your own financial independence. Those are not mutually exclusive. Education is important, but financial freedom for your entire family, including you, is just as important. I'm Josh Duncan, partner at F5 Financial Planning. If you would like to learn more about how we help our clients achieve financial freedom for personal significance, please visit our website at www.f5fp.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.